What's up, everybody? Welcome to On the Record, a punk music podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Brennan, alongside Alex Newman. What's up, Alex?
Not much. Just getting over being a little sick. So if I cough, sorry.
I can edit that out.
I got a glass of water, and I'm gonna try and talk. As much as I can. But it's a good thing we've got some backup here.
Yeah, joining us this week, making his return, is Josh Facchetti.
What's up, guys? Facchetti, how's it going?
All right, so On the Record is a fan podcast where we discuss the Fat Records catalog, mostly album by album, absolutely side by side, and with a liberal definition of chronologically. We don't really have music expertise. We're just some friends shooting the shit about albums we loved growing up. Alex, I'm looking forward to talking to you today about Til It Kills. But first, can you remind me why we decided on such a daunting quest?
Call it nostalgia or navel gazing. This is just a fun way to revisit our youth through the lens of records we loved, or in this case, records we are only moderately familiar with. But with that, let's get into the liner notes. Til It Kills was released on April 17th, 1995. The band's lineup was Cinderblock on vocals and guitar, Jeffrey Bischoff on guitar, Gabe Mullane on bass and backing vocals, J. Vincent Camacho on drums. It was recorded at Hyde Street Studios, engineered by Kevin Army and Bernd Bergdorf, produced by Kevin Army, and that should be it.
Bernd Bergdorf sounds like that guy that went AWOL and we had to trade some prisoners from Guantanamo to get out, right?
Oh, was that Bo something?
Bergdahl, something like that.
I thought it was Lars Ulrich's dad's name, to be quite honest. I would delete that.
You delete what?
It's some kind of monster. His dad is in some kind of monster, and Lars plays him like one of the songs from that record, and his dad goes, after a beat of silence, he just goes, "I would delete that." It's just the best thing ever because it's the fucking guy from Metallica, and his own dad just goes, "Yeah, no, it's not good."
Fuck Lars Ulrich.
Agreed.
All right, guys, let's get into side one. Where do you just want to start at the top? Because I think this record opens with a fucking banger. It's a great song.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. The first song is Libel. First thing I wrote was bassy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great opener. It is very different from most of the Fat Records releases that we've heard. Different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Bay Area sound. Is
yes.
Kind of what I've concluded listening to it. And just right off the bat, I thought Cinderblock has a great fucking voice as well.
For sure. This is their second record, and I don't know if I've ever heard the first one, which was on Lookout, Playcell. I've probably heard songs from it, but of all Tilt's records, this is the one I'm the most familiar with, and even then, I wasn't. Prior to this, I wasn't super familiar with a lot of it.
Yeah, this one was a huge one for me. I listened to this a ton in high school. I have never heard the Lookout album. I'm sure I had it on a hard drive at some point in my youth or whatever. But in the quest to ever find more music, I'm sure I just downloaded it and never got around to it. But this record and the following one, I had a little familiarity with the following one, but this one was my jam for sure.
Yeah, and I can see why, because this record is awesome. And speaking to what Ben said about it having more, its own, more of a different sound than a lot of the other bands that we've talked about up to this point on Fat. It just must be because the Bay Area scene was just pulling from a different set of influences altogether.
Yeah, just a different vibe.
Yeah, because the tired thing that we keep having to go back to because it's accurate up until this point is outside of Face to Face. Pretty much every one of these records we've talked about has a distinct Descendants and Bad Religion influence.
Yeah,
and this one I don't detect any of that here.
I get a little bit. I've always felt like there's a little bit of a Bad Religion vibe, but more so in like just the deliberate like pacing of a lot of the songs. Like it reminds me a lot of like albums like Stranger Than Fiction and like The Gray Race, where like it's never quite like a fast song, but it's never exactly a slow song either. It's like somewhere in this like middling like
Yeah.
mid up tempo area. Like sonically, there's no relation, but I do feel like there's a kinship in that way.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's more just like in the overt, obvious, like
Yeah,
sound influence. But I mean, I think all that stuff definitely like plays into the sound of all these bands, at least
yeah.
on some level.
Oh yeah, I was gonna point out. I think there was one song that we'll talk about on side 2 that I thought actually sounded very Descendancy. Even the title almost seems like it's something the Descendants might have.
Oh,
But we'll get to that. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, there's not much direct lifting from either Bad Religion or Descendants on this.
yeah. But regarding libel specifically, I love the way that this is such like a great opening track. Like, and I mean, I'm personally even just like I'm a total sucker for any like song that's going to start with that kind of drum beat that they do at the beginning.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's just like a great lead in, and then it has that amazing like payoff where she launches into that line "Inside My Head." It just like you're like, oh wow, it just go like because at first she's like really subdued, and then she just like fucking goes for it and amps it up, and it's fucking great.
Oh yeah.
Um, on the like we can talk about the lyrics just individually, obviously, but like on the whole, how did you guys feel about the lyrics? Because I thought this might be this is definitely one of the better records like that Fat's released up to this point in terms of the lyrics.
Overall, man, it's one of those records where you ever have one of those songs where you've listened to it a million times and like you know it backwards and forwards, but then they actually sit down and look at the lyrics and like it hits completely differently. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's this record for me. Like I've listened to this record so many times over the years, over and over and over again. I listened to it like 3 times at work the other day just because it's an easy repeat listen. It just flows really well.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking back at the lyrics, prepping for the show, like it never hit me how dark a lot of this record is and how heavy a lot of this record is.
Yeah. It's really it's like almost entirely introspective.
Yeah.
Where we again that relates back to Face to Face, because that record was very much about that type of Trevor Keith took that sort of approach to the lyrics, and a lot of the other releases that we've talked about sort of mixes it up and does things that are more about the external world.
Yeah.
But there are definitely plenty of songs that we've talked about on these other bands that do have some introspective lyrics, but this one is like almost entirely that.
Yeah, it definitely feels like you're reading someone's journal, and similarly to Face, there's also another Face version of Disconnected on this album, which is really weird because it's a Tilt album, so it feels really strange that Disconnected is just on another album again.
Wait, how do you mean?
It was a bad joke that just bombed. It's okay. Because Face to Face puts Disconnected on like every album they do. Oh my god, my skeleton wants to jump out of my skin right now.
Wait, how many times have they done that?
I think it's on like 3 different albums.
What? Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I swear to you. Disconnected at minimum it's on 2 different albums, but I think it's on 3.
I don't know, man. Some bands just like they like record a song and they're like, "Oh, that's so good. We need to do it again."
Yeah,
and again.
That's true. I do remember Iron Maiden. I do remember Iron Maiden doing Number of the Beast on 3 different records. That is true.
But
please leave that in. Don't edit that joke bombing out. It was awful, and I want it to be in there.
Well, it's all right. I think maybe it would land with people who are bigger Face to Face fans because Ben and I are not really those people. But yeah, anyway, like libel, the lyrics. I think the lyrics on this one are like there's some really great stuff. And it just like right off the bat establishes like how good she is at writing lyrics. Because I love that bit at the end. Is this at the end? or maybe towards the middle, which says, "You try to bite your words, but they keep forming in your mouth, and they are libelous, hotly popping out. I'm beyond the cutting range of your dull mind and jagged tongue." Like that's some good like poetic lyrics there.
Oh yeah, and like her delivery at that point too, like her voice gets just a little more aggressive as the lines go on too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great song about talking shit.
Yeah, so that definitely seemed to be part of it, but it also seemed like there was maybe even also some like self-reference there, right? Where like the shit others are talking becomes like shit you talk to yourself.
Oh sure.
Yeah, it's being internalized because of the things people are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good. So what do you guys what other standouts on side one? Because I personally think that side one is far better than side two, even though
Yes.
on the whole
Yes,
the
definitely.
record's very good, but side one fucking kills it.
Confines of Love I really like. It's cool because it's a like on the surface it's just a love song, but if you go a little deeper again with the extremely introspective lyrics, like it starts off just like, oh yeah, this is a song about how dating is shitty and stupid, and dating is shitty and stupid, and I can relate to that. But like by the end of the song, it's definitely way more about like finding love, but running the risk of then like losing your identity in that.
Right. Yes.
I also kind of heard a bit of or read a bit of like talking about how like kind of old wounds are holding you back
Yeah.
in the lyrics as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a big running theme, I think, too, with all the introspection. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think she goes into that on at least a few of these songs. There's definitely some there's like a big theme of like relationships to this record.
Yeah.
How did you guys feel about "Leaning Like a Barn"? Because this is probably one of my favorite songs on this record.
Dude, it is so much fun. And it feels like watching like a Thelma and Louise type, like woman out for revenge movie, like a real strong, like it just seems awesome. Like I just want some like female John Wick style movie with this track in it and like just ass beating everywhere.
Um, yeah, this song, like it has like such a strong hook, and the chorus just like gets stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Like I think of most of these songs, this one for some reason like the chorus kept popping into my head over these past couple of weeks when I wasn't even like thinking about anything. It's so catchy.
And like that
But
line, I'm feeling like a knife in a drawer. Like that's such a cool
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the analogy that she makes in this song, that she creates in the song, like connecting a failing relationship with a dying farm.
Yeah.
Like just all the figurative language, it's like really clever.
Yeah.
That last verse where she says, "Don't need a sickle to cut you down. Don't need no
Oh,
divining rod to track you down. The rains are coming and the sky is brown. The weather vane is spinning around." That's awesome.
dude, so good.
Yeah. The main note I wrote for the lyrics was just that everything seems like she's trying to evoke the image of being on the brink of disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everything's about to fall apart in a second.
Right, and the tension is like ratcheting up, which is why I feel like a knife in a drawer. It's awesome. And then Unravel, which this might be my favorite song on the record. I don't know. It's actually like it's between uh, Libel, Leaning Like a Barn, and Unravel. I like all these songs a lot. Um, but this was actually my first exposure to Tilt because this was on the first Fat Music comp.
Yeah, they two out of the three songs you mentioned were on Fat Comps. Libel's
Yeah,
on I think Fat 2, which was my first exposure to them and one of my favorite comps probably to this day.
yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, Unravel. I loved that song so much. Like that was one of the songs in the original Fat Music I'd listened to over and over again. And
Yeah,
it's odd. I just never. I feel like the Tilt records weren't easy to find in record stores. Maybe
that
I
was
was just
part of it.
hard or not looking hard enough, but it seemed like they were more difficult to find, and then I just never bothered to when all of God's music became available for everybody at the drop of a hat.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really glad that we got to go back and listen to this album because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. But this song specifically, what was your read on the lyrics? Like it could like solely be about drug addiction and like the mental crisis that creates, but is it also, there's something about this that makes me think it might also have to do with drug trafficking on some level, because
I
she has the line "spit it up and hand it over," and then later in that same verse, she's become just one more hopeless package of doom.
Oh
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
I did not get any of that out of this,
I
but that
didn't
makes
I didn't notice
sense.
that either. It does make sense. And right after
Um,
that handed over line, she says to yet another child of squalor.
I
Right.
I mean, I was just I mean, I was kind of not clear what this song was about, but I kind of thought it was about like just kind of having the capacity to change and like rise above shitty situations, but you know.
Yeah, I definitely Ben, you sent a really good interview that came out, I think after this record, but before the following one. And she does talk about this record being one of the records she worked on, like that she was still pretty much under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So it does kind of line up with, the themes Alex was pointing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, because we all read that article, which has a lot more to do with the following record than anything on this one. But that one bit that you mentioned, definitely like factored in to like how I was reading some of the lyrics.
Absolutely.
But I love that bridge part at the end where she says, "No, folks, there's no device, no box of gods to descend and take this tragedy, tie up all the loose ends." It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't even. It's impossible to say enough good things about the lyrics on this record because they really do just hit perfectly.
Yeah, I really admire the way she's written a lot of these lyrics. They're great. So how did you guys feel about Acacia?
I was
Acacia?
gonna ask how this. I was hoping somebody else would say that because I have no
Yeah.
idea how to pronounce it.
Acaphasia. I've had it before. So, do you guys know what it is?
No.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
it's a side
subjective.
effect of
What?
oh
It's like the way that it, like, because honestly I had never heard this word before, this song. It's just not a thing that I think I've ever heard anybody talk about. But it like I just looked it up, and it's like a subjective feeling of motor restlessness, like that's
Oh wow.
manifested by a compelling need to be in constant movement. Is that?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a side effect of certain psychiatric drugs, and
Oh
so
wow.
something I was on briefly caused it in me. It was fucking torture.
Oh Jesus.
Absolutely awful, especially because I had to fly on a plane while on it,
Oh
and
Jesus.
you can't really move around much on a plane, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to move all the time.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
luckily
you
the
doing like lunges in the aisles, like.
that was what I was doing. Like the attendants were like really nice about it. I'm like, I'm sorry, I got this thing where I got to move around. As long as we're not in turbulence, is it okay if I kind of meander up and down the aisle? And they're like, yeah, that's okay. So, which is one of the best experiences I've had while flying, considering the situation, because that could have been much worse too.
Oh sure.
Definitely.
But yeah, no, and it's interesting because clearly the song is not about that actual disorder, but it seems to be about kind of like living in a modern America, like feeling like you have to constantly stay moving and constantly keep going
Sure.
to keep
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. I also think I mean, maybe on some level that relates to, like, I just kept thinking about like them being on tour, like bands
Sure, yeah.
compulsively needing to be on tour to always be moving forward. Even though the lyrics say nothing about any of those topics, it's just like, I think it's just the way that it's been written that just sort of implies what she's talking about.
Yeah. I definitely got like a Descendants suburban home kind of vibe because there is a lot of talk of like fresh paved roads and lines and kind of like
Mhm.
allusions to like prefabbed homes and things.
Yeah, what that reminds me of is Pulley,
Yeah.
Suburba. Yeah, yeah. Uh, But I just, again, like, I know I just keep like harping the lyrics, but just the way this one was written in particular was also just like so fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the descriptions when she says discount labor packing each lane, bargain basement homes sewn to the road. It's a really colorful language. I like it.
It is. I love that hook too of the line, "I got these shoes for nothing and they've lasted me forever."
Yeah.
Because it is kind of like however corny it is, it's like a nice metaphor for these, even just these fat records and these comps we're talking about, where like we're spending $3 or $4 on these things at a show or whatever, and it's 20 years later and we're still sitting here talking about them.
Yeah.
I really also like that kind of, I guess I call it a breakdown towards the end. That kind of like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. What did you think of Suspended?
So I thought it was a nice change of pace from the way the other songs sounded.
Yeah, because
Um,
it has the bass is like driving the verses, and you don't usually hear that.
and then my other thought on this was that they just write really fucking good choruses.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just a
Really fucking
machine.
good choruses.
Yeah.
And then, is this like a kink fetish song?
Nothing. That wasn't my read of it. This was like another one where she's using a lot of figurative language, where everything
Yeah,
relates to like stage related imagery. Um, and the way I read it was that she's like she might have written it that way because she's over, or maybe she's suspended above like the drama that's been created by the end of her relationship, which is, the drama that creates. Maybe that's why she used stage imagery
See, I
in the
think
lyrics.
it really sounds to me like somebody that's part of like a rope show sort
yeah,
of
it
thing.
definitely does.
Leave me suspended, leave me upended, so unprotected, pulled gently upward, hoisted and tethered, unseen and unheard, so undetected. Something like that. That was what I was getting from it.
Punishment fitting, I'm lifting and lifting, a weightless sonata. Yeah, I mean,
That's
I,
interesting.
they're a Bay Area band. It would not be beyond the pale. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, certainly
there's,
not.
there's
No.
definitely some vibes. There's some vibes, we shall say.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco is very well known for having those types of like fetish clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't read it that way. I read it more of like the end of a relationship, like and just being like kind of over it, and just like wanting it to be done. Um,
I can see that too. I think it's probably meant to be both.
it could be both. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting that's the direction that you went with it.
When
Yeah,
when your
that's cool.
nickname or name is Cinderblock, I guess your hobbies aren't going to be, just like antique book collecting or anything like that.
It could be too. I mean,
I mean, yeah, they're not mutually exclusive, certainly. It's just not the go-to hobby I think I would think of, I suppose.
And then what did you guys think of the title track here? I don't think that this is one of the strongest on the record, but it's good.
That's kind of where I'm at. I do think it's fine. Like I don't at worst the songs I think are the weakest on this record are still good serviceable songs.
Yeah.
But for a title track, I did hope for a little more punch from it. I feel like
Sure.
for the namesake of the record, it does kind of not underperform, but it's a little more subtle than I think you would expect it to be.
Yeah. But I do really like the lyrics on this one,
Yeah.
which are that's definitely like very clearly about drug addiction.
I thought it
And
was
like,
about love and both love and drug addiction.
well, I mean, it's very. I just think it's very clearly about like the concentration of like the substances, like as we progress forward. Like I like how she like the lyrics echo the sentiment, like by being obsessive and how they describe the process and the effects of the drugs. See, I gotta pull up the lyrics here.
I mean, my opinion is that all of the best love songs are actually about heroin. So,
I could see that. Yeah, I mean that's definitely like you could potentially read that as like subtext here.
Yeah.
But yeah, when she's going into like obsessive detail over like we can extract it from the core, the calibrated traits. We skillfully can integrate highest grade that can be had, most potent substance like known to man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love.
yeah. I mean, you could definitely take it that way too. But I think again, this is probably the effects of me reading that interview before really like diving into the lyrics.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's good. Uh, but it's between Till It Kills and Suspended are the ones that I thought were maybe like the weakest on this side, but they're still good songs.
Yeah, I mean, I actually thought I liked Till It Kills more than Suspended, and
Yeah,
well, and even maybe Akathisia. I thought with Akathisia, it kind of got to the point where it felt like a lot of the songs were starting, at least in terms of sound, to sound like they were blending together.
Yeah, there's a lot of points I think on that second half that happens.
yes, definitely.
Past the Point is probably my song that I think kind of represents that the most because it's a fine, again, like at worst the bad, quote unquote, bad songs on this record are still pretty damn good, but Past the Point is there's songs on the record that do everything Past the Point does, and they do it better than Past the Point. So if I had to
Yeah.
cut one, that's probably the song I would cut.
Mm. Well, before we get into side two, let's just take like a short break and do a couple of shout outs. Josh, do you have a shout out?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out weird rap songs on punk and ska and pop punk records in the early 2000s. It's a weird phenomenon that I'm here for, and I really appreciate it.
But was Tilt the first to do it?
Oh no. I
don't
mean,
think
that
so, no.
technically goes back to like the 70s and 80s, really, with punk bands. One of my favorites of those is the band Youth Brigade. Had the song Boys in Blue, where it's one of the Stern brothers rapping about police.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no way that doesn't sound ridiculous.
Oh, it's like the
With the-
hokiest white dude rapping you can imagine.
And those guys have such nasally voices too. Like they all talked out of their heads, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, it's Men in Blue.
It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
So who else? So okay, indulge me a little bit. Who else did this type of thing? Like obviously later.
Catch 22's got a bad one in the modern era. That's pretty ridiculous.
Blondie
What
does
was
one,
it?
right?
Yeah, Blondie's got Rapture with Fab Five Freddy, which is, boy, does it not stand the test of time. Pretty like revolutionary for the time to hear like a white lady rapping on this with like a hip hop guy, but yeah, it does not age super great.
I can't imagine it would.
It's a lot of like rhyming book with look and here with like fear, and like it's very like my name's Debbie Harry and I'm here to say like that kind of.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's like reminds me of Prison Mike on The Office.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that the Exploited never did like a weird rap song.
Exploited?
Yeah, for as odd as they got in their later years, like they jumped on like the thrash metal train like 10 years too late at one point. Like
Wow.
it
Can't
wouldn't
say I was ever familiar with Exploited.
it wouldn't shock me to find out that they like took a stab at like some weird like punk industrial rap hybrid or some nonsense.
That sounds like hell. Punk industrial rap.
Yeah, I think Slapshot
I mean-
did a record like that.
Well, also, isn't that what that Wiccaphase Springs Eternal band is?
Oh
Or
God,
am
I have no idea.
I don't know. I refuse to listen to it, but that was what I was under the impression of.
I mean, we can go with that assumption. It doesn't bother me any.
My shout out, and maybe this has been shout out too. Shout out to venues that have parking lots. We went and saw Quicksand recently, and holy shit, nowhere to park. In fact, the venue recommended on their website, take a car service. Like, fucking ridiculous. Come on, guys. How are you
So
gonna have a club and nowhere to park?
That is a
I
hell of
would
a
hope
demand.
that they're replacing the parking lot that was being torn down with a parking garage because that area seems like it sorely needs it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Another like, and that was the thing that like gave me the realization of just like, oh, this is how rich people just keep people out of their neighborhoods because like everything is permit parking in
Yeah, you just
West
price them
Hollywood and
out.
Beverly Hills. Huh?
You just price them out.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like if you don't live there and you don't have a parking like permit,
Yeah.
like there's nowhere to park unless unless you get a meter or you have to like there is a very small garage, but you got to walk really far.
Good lord.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Abolish
but,
California.
It's not quite that bad, but yeah.
Just give it to the other states. You can make Washington a little bigger, and Nevada can have some more space.
Is Washington going to get Oregon in that deal?
Yeah, well, look, this isn't a geography podcast. I don't know what you want me to do here.
No, that's two less not Republican senators. I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, then we'll figure
Break
it
it
out.
up into smaller states. Don't.
Yeah,
don't-
we'll make make more states. We'll do that. 56 states. Everybody,
If we're going by just like looking at music influences here, you could easily divide California by northern and southern, just based on music.
Southern California, you could cut it off and just call it Pennywise.
That's Orange County and parts south, right?
Yeah. That's more of like the southern California.
People could sing "Bro Hymn" before baseball games.
Oh,
It'd be great.
Fuck off. No.
You know what?
That'd be the greatest.
That would be so much better than singing the anthem.
Thank you, Ben.
If Bro Hymn became the national anthem,
Sure,
it's a lot.
Okay.
That would be a better national anthem than the current one.
I'll back that in that case.
I mean, we should really have something like America the Beautiful or This Land Is Your Land, something not glorifying war, but
Bro Hymn's fine.
Bro Hymn, does not glorify war as far as we know.
No, I've never seen any subtext to indicate otherwise.
Right.
What was Pennywise's long-standing political agenda?
I thought they only had one agenda, and that's fuck all authority. All right, now let's get into side two here. Where do you guys want to start?
Oh, let's see here. What do you guys think of Lips, Tits, Hips?
This is my favorite song on this side.
It's a banger, dude. What is it, like 90 seconds and they're out and they're done? Like, it's everything
it's got that weird ass outro that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just everything that's cool about this record, like packed into one short little punch.
It sounds a lot like a Distiller song too. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah, I would definitely get like a Sing Sing Death House vibe for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, really like the little interlude in it as well. Or is that the interlude ends it? I think. Right.
I think that's probably what Alex was talking about. Is that kind of odd?
It's that weird outro. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't understand why it's there, but like I don't know if it's because they like wanted like a transition to the next track, because it does transition well to the next track, but it's weird.
Yeah.
But the song itself is fucking awesome. And what was your read on this one in terms of the lyrics? Because I think my understanding was that it's about gender conformity and feminism.
Yeah, it was kind of the vibe I got too.
Yeah.
My makeover commenced. Candy coated lips can coach me right along. No mess, no fuss.
Right.
Perfectly natural.
Yeah, those
are
are
beauty standards. Yeah, that's
right.
what I got.
Those all sound like things that were pulled from ads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And even like that last set of lyrics, I'd say she's a man's girl, translucent with a bit of shine. I'd say she's a bad idea. Conditions as it deadens your mind.
Yeah, I have that written down as my favorite part. I really like that.
Yeah, it's fan again. Like it's hard not to go back to the lyrics every time, but she really does nail it on like every song.
Yeah, I mean, it just my read was it's like about like wearing makeup and reducing yourself to being an object.
Yeah, it big beauty standard vibes was my immediate takeaway.
Yeah, it's a absolute standout on the record.
Oh yeah.
So you said you mentioned Past the Point before, but I tend to agree with what you were saying. Like it's definitely one of the most unmemorable tracks.
Yeah.
Like thankfully, this is another short one.
Yeah, I think part of the issue too is like it's not a super long record, but it's long enough. I mean, 14 songs is kind of a lot.
It is.
And when you do get towards the end of that record, like Ben was saying, there's a couple 2 or 3 tracks where like you could kind of chop those out. Like my notes, what song was it I had in my notes was like Land of Fragments is good, but it's one that I think I could cut to. Dirty Kitchen Eternity. I think it's really, really good, and I think I would really like it a lot more if it wasn't, the second last song on a record where you're kind of already reaching the breaking point as far as how many songs you want to sit and listen to.
Yeah. That was the one that I thought sounded a lot like the Descendants on here. I don't know if you guys picked up that vibe.
That wasn't really what I was thinking while listening to that one. I guess I'd have to go back and sort of look for that. But
yeah, I didn't see it either, but it's definitely something going back I'm going to keep in mind too, just to see if I hear it.
Yeah, like it wasn't jumping out at me on that one. And with Dirty Kitchen Eternity, like I like the melody of it, but like I just couldn't shake the feeling that it could have used another element to make it more interesting.
Yeah, I could see that.
It feels a little too standard compared to a lot of these other songs. And then lyrically, I think this is a sexy song. I think this is about like, they mentioned that like part in the kitchen. It sounds to me like it's referencing like having sex in the kitchen, but maybe not. I don't know.
I thought it was just about like a dysfunctional relationship.
I mean that too, but like it seemed like it was more like about a person that she's just like having a good fling with.
Yeah, but why not both?
Right? Because they're like talking about the kitchen, and she's like, "Let's take a break and go get a beer." Like,
yeah. Let's give it a rest. Get a beer at the corner store.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I totally see what you guys are talking about.
Well, how did you feel about Windowsill? Because I really like the intro to Windowsill. I think like the intro is great because like I like it when side 2 of a record is very clearly like they were thinking about it as like side 2 because Windowsill has like an intro that feels like the beginning of a side, and like it's a good opener for the second half, and it has like a strong hook for the chorus.
Yeah, I thought that it sounded much more Fat Records than the rest of the record.
Yeah, I think I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This record's it's such an anomaly for Fat. I know we mentioned that earlier, but like it just seems funny to me that this ended up on Fat as opposed to like at the time they were doing there was Honest Dons and they had Pink and Black as like their other imprints. And
they already existed?
I thought so, but maybe not. Like because it seemed like a weird fit, but maybe that's why, because those two just hadn't even been started yet. But I do get such a vibe of it being odd for Fat and feeling like it should have been on one of those two.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's just coming from a different place. That East Bay scene just has a totally different set of influences running through it. But I could definitely see that. But I think like Honest Dons probably came around a little bit later on.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know the timeline on those two all that well.
I honestly don't either, but I think Honest Dons might have been like 97 or so.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I mean, I guess we touched on. Oh yeah, Dumb Little World is one that we haven't really talked about, which I think is another like it's good, but it's still not like a huge standout for me. I really like the guitar solo that's towards the end of it, but I thought I like the lyrics the most about Dumb Little World, which seems to be the theme seems to be like isolation and not feeling like you belong in your own country, sort of like rejecting patriotism. Because there's that last bit that she says, "This place is so wrapped up in itself, playing the theme song to my expatriation."
Yeah. Yeah, I won't buy into this bad deal, not so much as a dime for my homeland.
Yeah,
Do you think it could be a local thing too?
it possibly, yeah. Although she does talk, she does do a lot of talking about like the country as a whole.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it just, to me, it seems like maybe she just doesn't feel like she fits into it.
It's also like a little prescient too, because it does kind of feel like something you could have heard a number of years later during, George W. Bush and some of the, even now, some of the
Absolutely,
things, the sound of each little town as they sing, and
yeah,
every mile of town pops up full of pride for this country.
Mm-hmm.
Just shows how cyclical some of that stuff can become too lyrically. It's like you can take so many songs from all these different eras and just place them in different spots, and it's amazing how well they still fit. Kind of sad how well they still fit, I guess, more than anything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we've touched on that a bunch over the course of listening to these records. There's a lot of stuff that's like, in many cases, even more relevant than when they wrote it.
you're right, yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about the last song, Berkeley Pier.
I love this song. I love it.
You do? Okay.
It's super kitschy and fun, and like, but my association with this song is a little weird too, because I have like, this is one of those songs where you have like a weird memory attached to it. And I remember being in high school, and I had a friend who was like one of the dudes who kind of got me into like punk. And I remember he took like we had a class at our high school called like mass media communications or something weird like that. So it was like they would teach you like low level like video editing, and like teach you how to like storyboard a video piece and that sort of thing. And the final project for that class was each student had to produce like a short film. It could have been anything. It could be like a thing you scripted or whatever, blah blah. And so what he did was took like fight scenes from every like Godzilla movie that were available in America, and essentially made like a video mixtape, and then set every fight scene to like different punk songs.
Wow.
Yeah, real left field and bizarre, and like about as weird as you could get, which was pretty fitting for this dude. And I remember there's a scene of Godzilla and I think like Mecha Godzilla fighting to Berkeley Pier, and it's just like this like beautiful, calm, fun, silly song, and then like these two monsters destroying a city behind it. It was just such a good like juxtaposition.
That's fun. How did you feel about this one, Ben?
So it had charm.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was an okay closer. At first, I assumed it was another cover since this was a Fat Records record.
Yeah.
So I had to like look it up to see if it was a cover or not.
It does seem like it would be an old Sinatra standard or something, you know?
Yeah.
This this is my least favorite track on this record. It just it does not work for me.
I get it. I completely get it.
Because it's just, they're pulling from like a style of music that honestly fucking irritates me. And it, like, again, it's not executed poorly. It's too long. It bores me to death, and I think the lyrics are off compared to the rest of the record. They don't feel like they fit the rest of the record. I think these are by far the weakest set of lyrics. Because they're just so straightforward and simple compared to a lot of the thought that has gone into a lot of these other songs. And it just doesn't do a whole lot for me. It feels way more like standard than the rest of these lyrics.
Yeah, it does. It definitely feels like a song that was written very deliberately in like a way to be different from the rest of the album.
Yeah, it just doesn't work for me. This is the one that I would absolutely skip.
You sure? I mean, there's definitely something that's even more different from the rest of the album.
But
it's the hidden track though, so it's harder to hold them against it when it's a hidden track. We've we give passes for hidden tracks.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess, yeah. But do we give passes for things called the milk wrap? Because I hate that it's called the milk wrap.
I hate it too.
I was trying to figure out why it's the milk wrap.
Oh, I
Like,
don't know.
is
Because it
there
makes
like
you feel the way you feel after you drank too much milk, and you just feel awful, and you don't want to do it again.
I was, yeah, I don't know. I was trying to figure if there was some sort of connection to
Ugh.
something.
I don't know. I mean, maybe there's just like people were really into milk. Leche con carne,
Oh God.
which we
I could,
didn't really figure out what that is referencing. Although Ben put out a pretty great theory about it referencing the brews by no effects.
And it's meant to say that no use for a name is not kosher.
Right.
oh man.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about
could
that.
be that like to me that feels viable. I never
I
would have thought
couldn't.
of that.
I couldn't
Nothing
even
else
find
makes
like.
sense.
It's true. But yeah, I don't understand this. Like, it just sounds like something. Like the milk wrap sounds like something that they did, like fucking around in the studio. Like there was some downtime. Like, oh, we got some people hanging out. Let's just make something.
Yeah, they're hanging out, having some drinks or whatever. Like, let's
Yeah.
put this on the record. It'll be so funny.
Right.
It's like looking at your notes app after like taking too many edibles the next day, and you're just like, what was I making notes about?
Oh boy, yeah, we've all been there. Well,
It's hits too close to home.
all three of us have been there.
I've woken up the next day and been like, oh, I'm gonna look at that story idea I wrote down, and I'm like, that was my story. So Albert Einstein's son goes back in time, huh? Well, all right.
All right, yeah. I can relate.
Oh
Is
my
that
goodness.
gimmick infringement on Louis C.K.? Because I remember
Oh.
he had a bit about that.
Oh no, I don't like that anymore. That idea's going in the
He had a
garbage.
bit about getting way too high, writing the idea for I think like one of the seasons of Louis, and then like when he presented it to people, he was like, "Oh God, it was terrible."
Oh no.
All right, are we all done talking about side two here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So we want to talk about some rival records.
Yes.
let's do it.
All right. So now that we've shared our opinions on the entire album, let's expand the conversation a bit and go outside of Fat Wreck by bringing in some other albums that came out around the same time as Till It Kills, just to provide a little more context within the punk music scene at the time, in our segment called Rival Records, where we compare and contrast this week's record with some of its peers. Josh, what record have you brought to us today?
So I brought Green Day, my favorite Green Day record, Insomniac. It came out, what was it? October, I think, of the same year. Yeah, October 10th, 95, Reprise Records. We talked about kind of the Bay Area sound that when I listen to this record and that bass sound hits, I think of kind of Green Day right away. It's got a similar, like, these bands feel like cousins to me. Like they just feel that sort of same community style and everything. Like it just hits like Insomniac's got probably a lot more energy to it. I think Tilt kind of hangs in that mid-tempo pocket a little better, but like they do feel just like it feels like a real more muscly version of the Tilt record to me.
Yeah, I definitely can see it's pretty easy to draw a line from Green Day to Tilt.
Oh yeah, for sure. And a lot of those Lookout bands too.
Yeah. They were both on the same label, Lookout. And then they obviously came from the same scene, the Gilman East Bay scene. And then Tilt actually supported Green Day on the Dookie tour in early '94. So that it's pretty easy to see the similarities between the two bands.
For sure.
So this is your favorite one?
Yeah, great. I love the two first records from Green Day. Don't do a ton for me. Dookie is always going to be like a touchstone record for me because it opened the doors to so many other things. Mm-hmm. But I think Insomniac being the first album to follow that, it was also like the first album of theirs that was kind of like mine. because it's like, oh, I discovered them now, and like now I'm like officially a fan or whatever, and like I
You
remember
were there for it the day it came out.
yeah, like just the anticipation of that record hitting and like the videos coming out beforehand and the whole nine. It was the first one I was like in on the joke for, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. For me, I mean, I'm just not like the biggest Green Day person.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
I don't go much further than this record myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah. My opinions on Green Day are probably a little bit more obscure, considering some of my favorites are honestly, I really like Warning. I like Warning a
Warning's
lot.
great. Warning's
Yeah.
probably right behind Insomniac for me.
And it's a black sheep record. It's definitely one that is weird in their catalog.
It's like a pop record, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just got a whole different vibe. But Insomniac, I don't know. It is very much like the darker twin to Dookie.
Yeah.
Because of all the shit they were going through while they were writing it. Especially Billy Joe. You know, he was getting like approached on the street and like people trying to look through his windows and stuff like that. Just like people just wouldn't fucking leave him alone.
Well, and they got like the Against Me blowback too, where like people cutting van tires and shit, and just being horrible, disrespectful monsters.
Yeah, some of like the worst blowback a band has probably ever received. Getting kicked out of the scene. It was like
literally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the song 86, which is one of the best songs on this record, for me. Like that's the about being kicked out of Gilman.
I mean, I feel like, what the hell would you expect Gilman to do?
Right, yeah.
Kick Green Day out, like it doesn't seem to me like that's that terrible of treatment, because they treat everybody equally.
Yeah, that's a statement with Gilman that going in, like how it works.
But
still seem to fuck him up though, so maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree though.
I think he's really upset that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree that 86 and Panic, 86 was one of my favorites off of this, and then as was Panic Song.
Panic Song's got that awesome instrumental intro.
Oh, that's one of the best parts of that record is just listening to them like vamp on that opening.
It's really cool.
It feels like weirdly cinematic too, kind of.
Yeah. A lot of this record feels like it's like caught between them like moving in a new direction, but also sticking with what they were doing. It's just like
it's very much a band in transition for sure.
Yeah, it feels like a follow up in some regards, and then in other parts, it's like, oh, you're starting to do something a little different. Because like, I don't know about you, but like, Brain Stew definitely feels like that's moving in a different direction, and it feels like it so has much like a grunge influence to it.
Yeah, it's a lot crunchier than like anything on the record, and like it's so deliberate.
Yeah.
I will say, not as good without the Godzilla roars, though. It's clearly the inferior version. If you want the better version, you have to get the Godzilla 2000 soundtrack. Plus, there's that banger with Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin or whatever, or Puff Daddy. That's a real home run.
So Brain Stew was on the Godzilla 2000 soundtrack?
Yeah, and it was a quote-unquote remix, and literally the only difference was that, like, in between the they put a Godzilla roar. I swear to God, it just goes.
I have so many questions, but like, why is a song about doing meth on the Godzilla soundtrack?
Well, they're both destructive.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, meth is kind of the Godzilla of amphetamines.
The meaning of song lyrics has never mattered to Americans.
I wish these episodes had had titles, because what Alex said would be the title of this episode.
One of my favorite things about this record is the album art. Have you ever looked at like the full collage?
I remember the CD unfolds into like a huge poster of like just all the imagery on there, and it's very, very weird.
Yeah, it's cool. And the title of it is "God Told Me to Skin You Alive." It's fucking dope.
From what Dead Kennedys album was that like that? That was like a reference to one of their songs, I think.
Oh, is it?
I think it's the beginning of "I Kill Children."
So, I mean, what is your favorite? Since this is your favorite Green Day record, what like are some of your favorite songs, Josh?
I mean, I mentioned the Godzilla. Obviously, that's the superior version of that song. But like, I think Armitage Shanks is a great opener. The opening and closings on this record, I think, are perfect. Like Armitage Shanks and Walking Contradiction just wrap things up so well for me.
Yeah.
86 is really good, but I think Panic Song is as you mentioned, like it's one of my favorites too, just for that because it's so unique and it's not like anything that they had really done or written at that up to that point.
Yeah.
And it's different too because it's Mike Dirnt doing lyrics with Billy Joel. Not Billy Joel, Billy Joe. I wish Billy Joel was on this record. That would be awesome. But like I think that's cool too. And like I just like that it's them kind of doing something different, like real different for the first time.
Yeah, yeah, and it stands out because of that for so many reasons. But like that intro is maybe the best like moment on the record.
Oh my god, yeah! Like the way it builds tension and like it slowly just rolls and rolls and rolls and then it just kind of goes.
Yeah. And then I really like "Stuck with Me" and "Jaded," which I like "Jaded" because this is I feel like it's the closest that they come to having like a straight up Bad Religion sort of energy to
Yeah, it's
one
got
of their songs.
some real Suffer, No Control vibes.
Yeah, yeah,
Was
and I like that.
was Jaded a single?
I don't think so.
They released them. Well, they released them as like a dual, like almost like a dual track kind of, but
Okay, that, yeah.
they wouldn't always
Oh,
play both. Like radio stations would usually play Brain Stew and then like fade out Jade. Like they would fade out as it goes into Jaded. But MTV would play both because they had like a music video for like the song as like a pair.
wow. Wait, what? Wait, didn't MTV? I think I read that MTV actually was it Brain Stew? Like one of these songs, they did a video for it, and it's like a meth head getting his tooth extracted, and they did not play that video very many times.
I think that's the Jaded portion. Like I think the Brain Stew part is them on like this sounds absurd and I might be making this up, but I feel like it's them on like a couch with like tank tracks on it. And then once it launches into the Jaded thing, it like cuts to that weird, like, yeah, that like dental surgery.
Weird. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, um, I guess the fact that they really just went for it on this one, and like they did not like try to edit themselves in any way and
No.
try to be. If anything, they were like really totally fine with being, I guess, less accessible here.
Yeah, it felt like a complete knee jerk response and like in the best way. Like it just yielded the coolest results.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good record. I do like it. All right, let's move on to my rival record, which we had to talk about it sometime, so we're gonna do it now. Rancid, Out Come the Wolves.
Oh, yo boy.
Yeah. So I don't know about you guys, but like this remains like as good as I ever thought it was. I still fucking love this record, and it is it's a dead heat between this and Rancid 2000 for my favorite Rancid record. I can't really decide. They're different enough that like it's not
Oh
like more
yeah.
of the same. Um,
Rancid 2000 almost feels like a completely different band. Like the level of aggression they bring on that record, like
I
it's
know
insane.
it's fucking awesome. Uh, but on when it comes to this one's just like got some fucking ridiculous like just vocal hooks and the
Oh yeah.
songwriting is so good. Um, it is too long, but that's Rancid. That's Rancid. That's what
Yeah.
It
Rancid
is
does.
it is 100% Rancid.
Yeah.
They're the Quentin Tarantino of mainstream punk. Like it's everything is good, but it's always a little bit too long.
um, but yeah, just like connecting this to Tilt, like another Bay Area band.
Yeah.
But what made me really like, I mean, I think that Tilt and Rancid have the same level of like catchy hooks, just really good. But it's the bass. The bass is the thing that made me, when I was listening to Tilt, I was like, it just makes me think of Rancid because the bass was pushed forward and like, like they give like the bassist like solos and stuff.
Yeah.
And you just don't hear it that often. And it was just like, and on the Tilt record, the bass playing is really good. But you go to this, and Matt Freeman is just a fucking god for a reason.
Oh, just running up and down that
I know, man.
bass neck like a madman.
Like that. I mean, just like Maxwell Murder, like that's just he's just showing off, and it's awesome.
Yeah, there's no way a person should be able to play an instrument like that.
Yeah. I mean, like it's just you just don't really think of bands with like really like a whole bunch of like really memorable bass lines. But Rancid is like the king of that, honestly. So I mean, this one, it's a Stone Cold classic. I enjoy it, even though some of the songs you could definitely cut a number of these songs.
Yeah.
Because there's fucking 19 of them.
Luckily, they stuff most of them at the end, it feels like.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that's worth cutting is at the end. So it does feel like they just had a bunch of B-sides. Like, I'll just put it all on there.
Yeah, it feels like you're listening to like an anniversary edition of the album, even though it just came in.
Yeah, yeah. The remaster of it does have a few extra tracks, including
Actually, took songs off. They made it 14 songs.
But that version of it has a good cover. That's Entertainment. So that was a nice addition, but that's not on the actual record. This one went platinum, which I'm not really that surprised by. Yeah.
No, not at all. But just to think about it is nuts.
Yeah.
Well, they performed on SNL.
Yeah.
Yeah, they played and Roots Radicals, which is still one of my favorite songs on this record and one of my favorite just punk songs in general.
Yeah. What are your favorite songs from this record?
Oh God, so I go Roots Radicals is immediately like my knee-jerk answer. I think Journey to the End of the East Bay is like a quintessential Rancid song to me.
Yeah.
And I think I like Disorder and Disarray a lot, just as like kind of an underrated song. I think people don't mention a lot, but it's got a lot of energy. It feels very like anthemic, and it kind of feels a little bigger than Rancid would go at this point. Like it feels a little more bombastic than normal.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I would like. I'm not even sure like what would be considered like a deep cut.
Yeah.
But I guess some of like the less common ones that you hear people talk about, like I absolutely love Listed MIA. The song's fucking awesome. I love the guitars, the little the hand claps they mix in. Like it's just like really great touches.
I'm always here for a Lars song. I've always been a Lars guy when it comes to the Rancid records.
Yeah, that was like a note that I made was that like on this record, Lars is the MVP. Like he
big time.
really fucking steps it up here, and I feel like the reason that Rancid writes so many songs has to be the fact that like they're all musicians capable of writing their own songs.
Yeah,
and that's why they have so many.
12 out of the 19 songs too. Lars is either solo or co-credited too, which is really impressive.
Yeah, they were. I think he and Tim were just really rolling on this one. In terms of like their chemistry. And
this would have been their third record, right?
It's the third Rancid record, but it's only the second one that Lars is on.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because fun fact that we talked about on a different episode, but Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day was very, very, very briefly in Rancid. And then they asked him if he wanted to join full time, and he said no.
Oof. Imagine how much different though that would have gone.
That's it would have turned out to be a very different band, I think, in some regards. But yeah, I think even Lars, like the first time that Tim asked him, turned down coming into the band, and then he saw that Billy Joe wasn't gonna join the band either, and then Lars kind of like took it back, and he's like, "Oh wait, no, I'm in."
Nice.
And thank God, because I mean, he just like fucking kills it here, man.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest musical what if since Hulk Hogan almost playing bass for Metallica.
Is that real?
That's 100. I know it sounds like something that I would make up, but it is real.
Totally made up.
Did he know how to play bass?
Yeah, he legitimately knows how to play bass. Probably from his time in the Wrestling Boot Band.
Do you understand how much money they would have made if Hulk Hogan played bass for them? Like, they would like own the music industry.
They would have played WrestleMania every year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just
Hulk Hogan coming out to seek and destroy instead of Sting would have been something.
Man. See, I want to live in that reality. I want to live in the reality where Hulk Hogan is in Metallica.
Oh my God. That's the world where like everyone gets their vaccinations and like people are kind to each other. That's the world that's what the world that resulted as a result of Hulk Hogan being in Metallica.
Yes, that's a high likelihood that is the best timeline.
It's the brightest timeline, as you were.
Well, Ben, are you going to weigh in on this record?
Yeah, so I mean, this for a while, because these songs just got played to death for me. So for a while, this was, I mean, I've not listened to anything past Rancid 2000 more than maybe once, if that.
That's a good move.
But this
was near the bottom of the 5 for me for a while. But after listening to it again after so much time away, like, I don't know if it beats Let's Go. It definitely doesn't beat Rancid 2000 for me, but it might beat Let's Go. So I'm going to go back and listen to that and see what I think about that. But definitely be listening to Out Come the Wolves a lot more often. Favorite songs are Maxwell Murder, most of the stuff you guys talked about, Roots, Time Bomb. I love Olympia Washington is a great song, although I think
it is.
I think that No Effects, actually, their cover is better.
I love that EP. That's it.
Really?
Both bands do. So good.
I think No Effects is stellar on that. Like, they picked the best Rancid songs to cover, and they picked Rancid songs that would work as No Effects songs. I felt like Rancid picked the most popular No Effects songs.
100%.
And not the ones that would work very well as Rancid songs, and so that kind of always bothered me about it.
Which is confusing because Rancid has in the past chosen like to do covers that make sense as Rancid songs.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And they could have gone, I guess, to more towards like the ska oriented No Effect songs, but they didn't really seem to do that.
Also, a bold choice to cover "Don't Call Me White" and have Matt Freeman sing it. Because it just sounds like Barney from The Simpsons, like just shouting. One of the most incredible bass players I've ever heard, but I don't want to ever hear the guy sing again.
That's true.
He just sounds like a guy yelling, like someone stole his Buick.
Oh my God, I can't get over that.
I love Old Friend. You can tune in. You can tune in on cable weekly to see a live crowd singing along to Ruby Soho every week now.
Yeah,
as well, because Lars gave blessing to the professional wrestler named Ruby Soho to use that as her entrance music.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's really cool because like the other thing I was reading about recently is like Tim Armstrong does like guest vocals on like much like lower tier, like, you know, lesser known punk bands pretty frequently, because he did it for the hardcore band Section Hate. And what was the other one that he did recently?
Not sure.
Yeah, I didn't even know he did
Angel
that.
Dust.
The new Angel Dust
really? He was on Angel Dust? Which one?
The new one that just came out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it.
Oh my
Um,
god, that's wild.
So they seem to be very supportive of younger punks, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was uh, Tim and was it Tim and Matt that produced the first AFI record?
That
Oh
might
wow.
be
They've,
right.
they've always been those guys. So
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, I still, honestly, like I coming back to this record after not listening to it for so long, I was a little unsure about how I was going to feel about some of these songs. And Ruby Soho, I think, was the one where I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've heard it so many times that like I don't even really need to listen to it again because I've just like my brain hasn't memorized, but it's still an enjoyable song.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'll definitely agree. Like Olympia Washington is definitely one of my favorite songs. Like period when it comes to Rancid.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's so good. And it's got some of my favorite, like iconic Tim Armstrong word slurring.
Oh my god, it's so
Because
bad.
I know, because the part where he says where we played a lonely pinball machine, it always sounds like lonely people machine, which also still kind of describes a pinball machine.
Yeah. Oh, a pinball machine. There's no like I-N or E in machine. He's just like, it's only a pinball machine.
Yeah. And then like Journey to the End of East Bay has like maybe the most like iconic word slurring when he says reconcile to the belief, and it sounds like he's saying tuna police.
That's sound like he's saying tuna police.
Yeah, classic.
Please. That's actually one of my favorite like short lines that he does in these songs. Like that part, I don't know. It always
It's
it
great.
hits
Like,
something in my brain.
yeah, I mean, like, we're making fun of it, but like honestly, like it's still like I love it. Um, and I mean, like another thing that I really like about Journey to the End of East Bay is that the song is basically just about the trajectory of Operation Ivy, which
Yes.
is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah, and then like I guess like maybe a couple of other ones that I guess deeper cuts. I really like Lockstep and Gone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because that's Tim and Lars like trading vocals back and forth, and I really like that about that song.
Yeah, they do that kind of like weird talk down where like Lars starts laughing. He's like, "We had him played all along."
um, and then Old Friend, really good.
Old friend's great, man.
Yeah, it's really great. And then I really like As Wicked. I think As Wicked's a great song.
Yeah, another huge chorus. Like
Yeah,
it's a home run, man.
yeah. And for I guess the other thing, like coming back to this, is that like for as much as this pulls in a lot of like the ska reggae stuff, um, it all works for me. Even though I just don't like as time has gone on, I like very little of that stuff anymore. But it still very much works on this record. I still really like that element of
Yeah.
it. Probably because it's balanced out by the other stuff that's just more straight up punk.
Yeah, it definitely holds up, I think, a lot better than, like you said, a lot of the contemporaries. It just some of that stuff just doesn't quite age as well, and it just doesn't hold up. And this stuff just feels evergreen. Like it feels like I could put this record away for another 10 years, not hear it, put it back on, and it would still be, like in my muscle memory.
For sure. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
listened to this one to death. Like even though it had been a while since I'd really listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Coming back to it, it's all still very familiar. Even the
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
even the songs that I don't really like as much towards the end. All right, Ben, what did you bring?
All right. So, I figured if we were talking about a band with a woman singing, it might come across as a little tone deaf. Both if we had only talked about records with women singing, and also if we did not talk about a single one.
Sure.
So I was initially thinking maybe picking a Riot Girl record, but instead, we're going to talk about Discount's Atraxia is All Right Tonight. Which the second I started listening to Tilt, I immediately thought this sounds like Fifth Hour Hero, And I was like, they definitely didn't have records out at this time. And then I was like, who probably did was Discount. So we're going to talk about Discount. This is a really great punk record. While listening to this, for a moment thought, could this band also be from the Bay Area? Just because of the way the record sounded. And then I found out that I was not correct with that, that they were from Florida, eventually relocated to Gainesville. And so I wonder would Gainesville be the Bay Area of the East Coast in terms of punk music?
Absolutely, 100%.
Definitely.
It's funny because I actually did not know where Discount was from at all until you just said that, because I never looked it up.
Yeah, I knew they were Florida, but I didn't know if it was ever like I didn't think it was a Gainesville thing, but I just knew Florida in general.
Yeah, and that just makes so much sense because one of the notes that I have is the guitars remind me of early Hot Water Music.
Yeah, definitely.
And also early Alkaline Trio.
And similar to both of those bands, I thought that it sounded a lot like pre-Dear You Jawbreaker. So, very, very similar to those types of bands. So if you're into that, you should definitely check out Discount. What were you guys' favorite songs on this record when you listened?
I know we just got done trashing covers a bunch, but I really love the It's the End of the World cover on this.
I'm the opposite. I think it's the worst song on here.
I oscillate between the two. So it's weird because I think this is like pretty soon to be doing an End of the World cover. I mean, I guess maybe not. I don't know.
It's so just straightforward. There's nothing interesting about it. Like, it doesn't even remotely approach the original version. Like, it's just, I don't know. I didn't need it.
I mean,
I get that.
Georgia,
it's got a scrappy charm I appreciate. Georgia
ain't that far away.
Yeah.
So maybe they were huge Michael Stipe fans. The singer actually. Have either of you guys ever listened to The Kills?
I love The Kills. The Kills is such a crazy departure for her from this, but man, she's so good in that band.
I've never listened to The Kills. Yeah,
either have I.
It's like, I mean, I guess it depends on like, it's kind of that garagey vibe, but it's some of the stuff's got a really cool like aggressive tone to it, and I feel like that's kind of what set them apart from a lot of those bands because there was that like deluge of like bands with like black and like motorcycle in their name and like club and just variations of like
I like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
Yeah, so do I.
I mean, that was a thing. Like, there was so many bands that just had that vibe.
Yeah.
And like on the surface, The Kills definitely has that vibe, but I think they do enough to kind of like separate themselves and make things interesting.
Because they're fairly famous. Because when I went to her Wikipedia page,
I had no idea that she was even in that band or anything.
It's strange, man.
They don't mention Discount on her Wikipedia page, but they talk about. I mean, I guess Dead Weather's a big band. It's the Jack White's.
Yeah, I like Dead Weather quite a bit too. They're really good too.
So like they just talk about those two like as like the headline. I mean, they probably talk about Discount elsewhere in it, but I was just like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah, it was a weird thing.
Yeah.
It was like they had Dead Weather had a couple singles that were like pretty big, and even then I remember being like seeing interviews and it says Alison Mosshart, and I'm like, no way, that can't be the same. And then like I would look it up and it was her, but yeah, no like press material would ever mention Discount. It was like this weirdly like omitted thing.
Discount is really obscure, honestly.
Yeah,
it's just not a band that I outside of like really people who are really into punk music have I ever heard anybody mention Discount.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely fair too.
But yeah, for me, like the clear standouts for me on this record were I really like the opening track, Waiting by the Wayside. It's a really good opener. But my favorite track on the record is Half the Time. It's got that really great hook.
Yeah, I was into, other than I really liked Waiting by the Wayside. Tomorrow Will Be, and then I also like the song KV T-shirt a lot.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, I like the opening quite a bit as well. The Discount's always been a weird band for me because I feel like there's these certain bands where I feel like every couple of years I have to go back and like listen again because I'm clearly missing something. Like some of these bands just don't click for me, but like Discount's one of those bands too where like it's never fully clicked for me, but like I love this band so much because of all the bands I got like as a result of them existing. Like I like Ben mentioned Fifth Hour Hero, and like people don't talk about Fifth Hour Hero, but like I love that band, and like without Discount, I guarantee you that band probably wouldn't sound the way they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was their record that was fucking great?
It's not Revenge, just a Vicious Crush. I think the like orange cover.
Was that the 2006 one? Yes,
think
the orange
so,
cover.
yeah.
Yeah. That record,
That record
so
is
freaking good.
unbelievably good.
I don't know that I've ever. I mean, I definitely saw that band at some point. I know I did.
I
Like,
know when
Hook-
we saw
Hook
them.
for days.
We saw them open, I think, for Strike Anywhere, and I think
That's right.
was it Seozin or
Mm.
Senses Fail or something like that played
It doesn't
as
matter.
the
Either one of
headliner.
the.
Yeah,
It's fucking
we were
awesome.
there for Strike Anywhere. Yeah.
That is correct. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, I think it was Seosin. Ugh. Fuck.
Not a good time.
No, not at all.
All right, you guys, anything else to say or?
No, I think we're good. I'm good anyway.
All right. So, what were your favorite tracks from Tilt to wrap things up here?
My favorites on this record were absolutely they're all clear winners. Libel, Leaning Like a Barn, Unravel, and Lips, Tits, Hips. Those are like absolutely my standouts.
For me, I'm gonna go Libel, Leaning Like a Barn, Akathesia, and I'm gonna go with Berkeley Pier because I have those fun, weird memories attached to it.
Yeah, so for me, the clear winner was Unravel, and then Libel and Lips, Tits, Hips were also very close to the top for me as well. And then, I mean, trimming the fat on this, like, I feel like we probably all pretty much agree that,
Past the Point.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a few I could go with. Past the Point, I could go with. Land of Fragments is good, but I could go with that. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, yeah.
I think some of those, I think you just cut any two of those later songs, and the ones that you don't cut that were kind of, you may have been whatever on, probably sound better.
yeah, I think it elevates. Yeah, I think
Right.
you chop like 2 tracks off there, and I think everything as a result seems a lot better.
Yeah. Definitely. And then I guess I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I did not enjoy Berkeley Pier.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. It was whatever. I did not enjoy the milk wrap.
No,
Well,
milk wrap. You know
I'm
what?
not
Can we
even
cut-
counting it.
can we cut the milk wrap? I know it's a secret track and you won't hear it anyways, but we could just cut that. We'll cut
Yeah,
the milk
we
wrap.
absolutely cut it. Yeah. I'm not even gonna acknowledge it.
All right. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or most importantly, corrections on anything we might have gotten wrong, and I'm sure there's plenty, please email us at ontherecord@gmail.com so we can set the record straight in a future episode.
And smash that like button.
Like and subscribe.
5
We'll be
stars.
back-
The algorithm.
We'll be back next week to talk about NoFX's I Heard They Suck Live.
Oh, this could be so much fun.
Thanks for listening.